welcome to another live film Rashad YouTube channel. Let's get into the Word of God. Because with this book I've been reading for a long period of time, about the Sermon on the Mount. It's about the great teachings of Jesus Christ, verse by verse look, written by Ed R.T. Kendall. Continue on with Matthew chapter 5, verse 25 and 26. The high cost of pride. This chapter 25. Chapter 5, verse 25 and 26, I'm going to read about the high cost of pride. This is what this verse is dealing with. Settle matters quickly with your adversary who is taking you to court. Do it while you are still with him on the way, or he may hand you over to the judge. And the judge may hand you over to the officer, and you may be thrown to prison. I tell you the truth, you will not get out until you have paid that last penny. Let's get into it, man, to break down. This chapter, what happens if we don't get reconciled with our brother and sister? Or what happens if we can't take criticism? This verse also shows how your enemy will treat you if they are not pacified. Quickly, not only should we become reconciled before we can unfeignedly worship God, we should do it to keep things from unnecessarily being blown out of proportion. So that's how it starts. Now, Jesus does not condone what your adversary will do. Jesus stated the fact of life. He knows what people are like. Jesus was the greatest interpreter of the human psyche in the history of the world. Nobody ever understood people as he did. Basically passes on some very prudent counsel. If we will take it, he is giving practical advice. Settle matters quickly, or things will get much, much worse. You live to regret your stubbornness to the no end. This could apply to when you have made somebody angry or when you have a critic. It may apply when a person doesn't like you and is capable of doing you great harm. But a typical scenario is when something begins very small. You get slightly hurt. If you're not very, very careful, that little spark will start a forest fire. But this is what the chapter is about. The question is, are we prepared to listen to Jesus? We know anger is wrong. But what do we do when our anger has got us into trouble? The pride of anger, let's break that down. All anger has its roots mostly in pride and self-righteousness. Our self-esteem, our self-righteous egos are usually at the root of anger. It's sometimes said that anger is the result of blocked goals, but our pride is often what lies behind those blocked goals. When we don't get our own way, our feelings sometimes get hurt. We get annoyed and fear we are not being taken seriously. This prideful anger must be nipped in the bud, because before we know it, we will become judgmental and start pointing the finger, stick our foot in it, and things get out of control if we aren't careful. We begin to degrade the other person, and then a fiercer problem emerges. Let's put it another way. Jesus is demonstrating the folly of the stubbornness. This characteristic service is because you refuse to listen, even to consider a different perspective. Cannot admit that the other person has a valid point. Continue on. See. In other words, instead of selling matters quickly, we become defensive, sticking to the guns. The result is that our enemy hands us over to the judge. To a judge, the judge hands us over to the officer, and we are thrown into prison. And what R.T. Kendall uses, he uses President Clinton as an example. It has a situation with him and Monica Lewinsky. White House immediately issued a statement of rejoicing as if it were over. Wrong, more information came out. Things got worse than ever. The eventual result was that Congress voted for his impeachment. The Senate narrowly let him off the hook, or he would have been ejected from the White House. But all he needed to do was admit from the start the truth the nation would have given him. Same was true with President Richard Nixon. Had he admitted to his compliance in the Watergate scandal from the start, he would have finished his terms of office with a measure of dignity. But no, his name will now always be under a cloud. The high cost of pride. There's hell to pay in the end. Jesus Christ has given us good and kind advice. Settle matters quickly. Simple as that. Say the truth, he says, you will not get out until you have paid the last penny. Let's continue on. What is an adversary? What is an adversary? When you call somebody rocker, which means stupid or fool, when you judge and degrade the whole person, not only are you not speaking the spiritual blessings to that person, but you have like it or not, just created what Jesus calls an adversary. Didn't need to happen because, in other words, you now have an enemy of your own making. What is more, you have a real problem on your hands. If your enemy's wrath is not diffused at once, his or her animosity becomes deep resentment. Deep resentment leads to revenge. The enemy's ire, which is a point that cannot be stopped. As an example, perhaps, smash without a rock. But you wanted to wait too long. If only you had made peace when you had a chance to do it. An offended brother is more unyielding than a fortified city. It's going to Proverbs 18, verse 19. Never mind that he made you mad. You now have made him madder than you were. You have a tiger by the tail. Things have not gotten out of hand. You may well wish. If only I hadn't said that, said it. If only I had made peace when there was still time. The peril of animosity, in this case, is that the person's resentment knows no bounds. Your adversary is going to make you pay. You can't stop it. It is too late. An adversary can sometimes be defined as a brother offended. It is a person you have embittered by what you said or did. He's taking you to court because you got angry over his accusation. Perhaps you reject his criticism out of hand. Instead of going to him and apologizing, you judged him and also went too far. But when first he criticized you, you might have said, "You're quite right." But no, instead of saying, "I see exactly what you mean," which is meekness does, you let him lose face by dismissing the view of hand. Result, you have a real adversary, a fierce enemy. He will now dig in his heels because he is deeply hurt. There will be hell to pay now. This is Jesus' practical advice. Jesus let us know what people are like. Take a lesson on human nature from the God-man. This is your chance to learn from him. In a word, if we demonstrate the meekness that Jesus mentioned in the Beatitudes, we could avoid needless adversaries in our lives. Self-manage quickly. It means to settle our court. The funny thing is, Richard Nixon used to say that the best way to deal with a crisis is to anticipate it and avoid it. If only he would have applied this to himself. Guarding the quarrel is like breaching a dam, so drop the matter before the dispute breaks out. It's Proverbs chapter 17, verse 14. John Calvin said that we should settle even at our own laws, rather than pursue our rights with unyielding energy. So you have to make a choice: stick to your guns or choose to budge and take Jesus' advice. Or as Paul put it in the Corinthian Christians who were taking each other to court before a pagan world with their family squabbles, why not rather be wronged? Why not rather be cheated? Is that the worst thing in the world? The person says, "I will not allow them to talk to me like that." Jesus Christ says, "Settle." Calvin says, "Settle even if you lose." Someone says, "I will not allow my spouse, my boss, my roommate, my employee, my son, my parent, the waitress, that person behind the ticket window that jumped up, settled and talked to me like that." As according to Jesus, you will not only lose the battle, you will lose the war if you don't settle quickly. It is such a pragmatic way to look at it. Why won't we look at it this way? Our pride. That's why it's called the high cost of pride. Selling out of court means surrendering your rights. You may feel that your anger was a righteous anger. Whatever, you now have opened the floodgates of hell. What to do? Jesus tells us, cut your losses and settle quickly. Demanding your rights is foolish. The proof is, you went too far. Be glad for the opportunity to reconcile. Is it possible that you are reading this just in the nick of time? Thank God for this moment. Settle match quickly. Thank God for this moment. Settle match quickly. So if you don't, says Jesus, you will lose, and you will lose badly. Why? Because you are now in debt to this person. You owe them. You thought they owed you wrong. You now owe them and need to pay up quickly. So Jesus was referring to an ancient system of justice. In ancient times, a person who defaulted on his debts could be thrown to the debtor's prison. He remained there until the amount was paid. The added problem was that while he was there in prison, he couldn't see anybody. Therefore, he could scarcely be expected to pay off his debt unless a friend came to the rescue. Jesus is not condoning this system. He's only pointing out the way people are and the way life is. You must not try to get people to adjust to you. Instead, you adjust to them. What is the main practical advice Jesus is giving us? In a word, accept criticism. If you agree with your adversary quickly, you have anything matter. Soft words, a gentle answer, turn away wrath. It's going to Proverbs chapter 15, verse 1. Say to him, "I see what you mean, thank you." The person who gave the criticism will think you are great. You will even gain a friend in the process. If you are defensive, you will be more alienated and will unnecessarily push things too far in the wrong direction. Reject criticism out of hand, the other person loses face. Last thing you want to do to someone. In Dale Carnegie's book, How to Win Friends and Influence People, he says we should let the other person save face. He reckons you can win a friend for live life by doing so, by doing this. But if someone loses face, that person will be angrier than ever and hold it against you. You will be the one to pay. He said, saying, let the other person feel he has told you all. Do so even if you don't totally agree. Let him vent his anger on you. Make him feel you have listened. If you are defensive, the worst case scenario may suddenly be in your face. As has been said, for what one of a horse a battle was lost. For one of a battle a war was lost. For one of a victory freedom was lost. Consider what a great forest is set on fire by a small spark. Jesus says to agree with your adversary while you still speak to each other. Do it quickly while there is still hope. Do it while you are still with him on the way. If that person is allowed to brood, their anger will intensify and reach the point of no return. Life is not fair. The punishment that will be inflicted is so often out of proportion to the crime. This punishment, being thrown into prison, is unreasonable and unjust. Yes, but it's also predictable. John Kennedy said, forgive them, yes, but don't forget their name and address. Don't expect the person whose advice or criticism you reject to have been immersed in the principles of total forgiveness or to have applied them. The natural reaction of the person who is not made perfect in love is to punish. And sometimes their way of punishing you in order to get even can be utterly ruthless. There is no fear in love, but perfect love drives out fear, because fear has to do with punishment. By the way, have you ever been the person who does the punishing? We tend to see this issue in terms of the other person who punishes us, yet you have been the person who is not pacified but throws someone into prison, so to speak. Have you ever made another pay to the full? David would have before he was king. They rejected David's advice, namely that Nabal showed favor to David's men, who had been very trustworthy toward Nabal. But Nabal was treacherous, arrogant, and merciless. If it were not for Abigail, Nabal's wife, providentially stepping in, they would have destroyed Nabal's entire family and state. Nabal was prepared to behave exactly like the person that Jesus describes in Matthew chapter 5, verse 25 and 26. The relevant question then is, can you be gracious? What if someone calls you stupid or a fool? Have you ever been the person who cast another person to prison? Have you ever made a person to pay the full because of what he or she did to you? They will stop only moments before he would have taken vengeance to his own hands. I remind you again, Jesus does not condone the ancient system. He certainly does not encourage a person to get revenge. He's merely applying his interpretation of the sixth commandment to everyday life. What does Jesus mean by the judge? This is metaphor, of course. Originally, it might have meant any court, if not the Sanhedrin. Here's what happens. It means the third person involved. Here's what happens. The person criticizes you when you get angry. This person talks to another person. Because the offended person tells you on you, he wins that other person over to his point of view. Now the two are against you. You look even worse. The officer, I take to refer to your wider reputation of looking pretty awful. By this time, you're handcuffed, so to speak. Have lost all rights. Nobody believes in you. You got no chance of looking good. That is the way the process often works. But if you diffuse the person right away, become reconciled to him, it's all over. However, if you don't sell things immediately, you create an adversary, and he will tell others all about you. Then you are in a no-win situation. It will make you look bad. And before you know it, everyone is against you. The thing is, it doesn't compare with what made you angry in the first place. You have out to pay because you would not sell out court. That's the high cost of pride. Prison is the worst scenario. This metaphorically could simply mean no chance of ever looking good. How could that happen today? Well, have you ever been stopped by police, say, for speeding? If you argue very much or start shouting at him, if he's not a smooth, gentle person, he might put you in jail. It's far better just to be pliable. Or let's say your marriage is in trouble and someone advises counseling. You say, not me, you refuse. The next thing is divorce. Now you will be do anything to turn the clock back and go to counseling. Or perhaps a situation has developed in an office where you work, you mess up with someone, and will give 1,000 worlds for a second chance. Jesus' advice when any such situation comes up: settle things quickly. This is practical advice that all of us can use. It is a most interesting aspect of Jesus' teaching. If the person you would not settle out of court with will never forgive. But there is no possibility of appeal, says Jesus. I tell you the truth. He says you will not get out until you have paid the last penny. There was a chance when you were walking with the person in the way, but now, not now. Jesus says that not only will you pay much, much more than you would have had you listen and negotiate early, you are going to pay the last penny. Your adversary is going to take all you have. And I just pointed out, it's like being put into debtor's prison. You can't get out because you can't earn any more to pay the debt that you put there. The high cost of pride, all because you were too proud to listen. Everything we have seen in this chapter is analogous to our relationship with God. The principles seen, the Beatitudes represent serious wisdom for us to take aboard. Meekness, a rare virtue, keep one from a lot of trouble. This is Jesus' wisdom. But because one has hated wisdom and the fear of the Lord, then they would call to me, but I would not answer. They would look for me, but would not find me. Proverbs chapter 1, verse 28. Stay teachable, do not harden your hearts. Psalm 95, verse 8. And then stay tender. If you look like a wimp or weakling by doing so, you say, I want a little respect shown to me. But I replied, Jesus was crucified in weakness and was raised in power. According to 2 Corinthians chapter 13, verse 4. You're willing to lose face. Let another save face. Settle out of court. Settle out of court. And even if you lose, because you will enter in the end, you will win, and that's it. So I'll be in chapter 25 tomorrow, reading Matthew chapter 25. Matthew chapter 5, verse 27 to 30. It'll be about sexual purity. You have heard that it was said, do not commit adultery. But I tell you that anyone who looks at a woman lustfully has already committed adultery with her in his heart. If your right eye calls you to sin, gouge it out and throw it away. It's better for you to lose one part of your body than for your whole body to be thrown to hell. If your right hand calls you to sin, cut it off and throw it away. It's better for you to lose one part of your body than for your whole body to go into hell. Tomorrow. Let's get into it, man. Let's go into the Ultimate NBA History and What If book, Volume 2. Continue on with another franchise look at in terms of history, and that's the Memphis Grizzlies. It wasn't always like that. If there's one era that defines the 27-year history of the Grizzlies franchise, will be the grit and grind era of Memphis basketball. The Grizzlies franchise that struggled for the first 15 years of existence to find a long-term NBA home. Grizzlies being incepted in Vancouver in 1995, moved to Memphis in 2001, then to find its identity as an organization in 2000, was reborn as a gritty, physical team built on out hustling their opponents in the 2010s. Players like Zach Randolph, Tony Allen, Mike Conley, Mark Gasol. They had a combination of teamwork, toughness, physicality that was a breath of fresh air for a city with no other major American professional sports teams, and such were the perfect team for Memphis to fully embrace. Grizzlies of the first half of the 2010s may have embodied the spirit and personality of their city more than any other team in NBA history. While they were never quite able to bring the city its first professional sports title, they were a consistent presence as a Western Conference contender, were one of the toughest outs in the playoffs in what is likely the most competitive era of basketball in one conference in NBA history. They left their stamp on the era and a double mark on their city. They appear to be in the midst of their second great era. When this book was written, it was around John Moran, Desmond Bain, or Jaron Jackson Jr. This is written a few years back. So it's not a current book. I want to be clear on that. It's written 2022, just 3 years ago. All right, so let's continue on. We're talking about the Memphis Grizzlies. It wasn't always like that. They were used to be the Vancouver Grizzlies back in the day. It wasn't always in Memphis. It was in Vancouver. Okay, let's continue on. Right, let's get into it, man. The Vancouver Grizzlies are born. The Vancouver Grizzlies are born. This is what it's all about. It wasn't always the Memphis Grizzlies. It used to be the Vancouver Grizzlies. Due to the massive success of the NBA in the 1980s and early 90s, due to the popularity of Michael Jordan, Magic Johnson, Larry Bird, and other marketable stars, and the global expansion of the NBA, the game of basketball as a result of the 1992 Olympic Games in Barcelona, the league was trying to expand beyond the United States, as Major League Baseball had already done with the Toronto Blue Jays in 1977. So the NBA introduced multiple Canadian-based NBA expansion franchises heading into the 1995-96 season: the Toronto Raptors and the Vancouver Grizzlies. Vancouver and Toronto both made sense as a perfect international destination for an NBA franchise. The proximity as compared to having an NBA franchise in Europe or Asia, which would present substantial logistical scheduling issues in its status as a home of other successful major American professional sports franchises, made them a natural fit for the NBA's expansion. They were also in both world-class cities with diverse populations, world-class cuisine, and are in the top 10 of population for all North American cities. Vancouver was also viewed as an entertainment home of Canada with a vibrant film industry. When you consider all of the factors above, the fact that a brand new arena, General Motors Place, opened before the Grizzlies' debut as new home of the Grizzlies and Canucks in 1995, it felt as though the Grizzlies were set up for success in Vancouver. But in 6 seasons in Vancouver from 1995 to 2001, the Grizzlies went NBA worst 101 and 359. They played 0 NBA playoff games in their time north of the border. Now, 1995 NBA expansion draft saw them acquire a few known NBA players who had played big roles on previous NBA championship contenders, like Greg Anthony was the first pick, and then Byron Scott. The Grizzlies was given seat number 6 pick of the 1995 draft in the NBA draft. The Raptors were given the number 7 pick and selected Oklahoma State Center Big Country Bryant Reeves with the core Blue Edwards, who was the 13th and final expansion pick. Benoit Benjamin, Reeves, Anthony Scott, Chris King entered into their inaugural season. At the shock of the NBA world with a 92-80 win over the Blazers in Portland, their first game in the Rose Garden led by Benjamin's 29 points, 13 rebounds, 198 overtime victory in their home debut against the Timberwolves on November 5th, 1995. The Grizzlies began their NBA journey 2-0. They would lose their next 19 games and suffer another 23-game losing streak, 23-game losing streak, and that would end up being a very rough first season in the NBA, finishing at league worst 15-67. So to put in perspective just how bad the Grizzlies' introduction to the NBA, the city of Vancouver was, they had two of the 18 worst losing streaks in league history. And their 23-game losing streak is tied for fifth longest in NBA history. Their 19-game losing streak was tied for 13th worst in the league history. Greg Anthony led the team in scoring 14 points, 6.9 rebounds. Reeves, in his rookie year, averaged 13.3 points, 7.4 rebounds. He was on an all-rookie second team in 1995-96. So the Grizzlies were just given the number 6 pick in the draft. Struck them bad luck considering Kevin Garnett was number 5 and went to the Timberwolves. Rasheed Watts went to the Blazers at number 4. Example of an questionable draft, professional to draft Reeves over point guard Damon Stoudemire, who won Rookie of the Year for the Toronto Raptors in 1995-96. Grizzlies were not given the ability to win the 1996 NBA draft lottery. They selected University of California forward Sharif Abdul-Rahim, number 3 pick overall. He would end up having a solid 12-year NBA career, but when you consider who was drafted in the final 13 picks, that Rahim, in what might be the best draft class in NBA history, the system was somewhat questionable because you had Ray Allen drafted, Stephon Marbury was drafted, Antoine Walker was in right, Kerry Kittles, Mikey Walker, Eric Dampier, Todd Fuller, Vitaly Panapinko, Kobe Bryant, Predrag Stojakovic, and Steve Nash. Byron Scott will be signed with the Lakers and Gerald Wilkins left for the Atlanta Magic. Grizzlies added Anthony Pillar and George Lynch, finished with the NBA's worst record for the second straight season, 1996 and 97, finishing 14 and 68. Abdul-Rahim had 18.7 points. They scored 6.9 rebounds. He was on the all-rookie first team for the 1996-97 NBA season, but Reeves improved himself as well, 16.2 points, 8.1 rebounds per game in his second season. So there were two major decisions that was made in the summer of 1997 by the Grizzlies. First, they signed Reeves to a massive 6-year, $65 million extension in the summer of 1997. This contract would hamper the team and play a big role in their relocation to Memphis in 2001. Second was to trade a future first-round draft pick to the Detroit Pistons for 35-year-old power forward Otis Thorpe. Reeves was the face of the franchise for better for worse in 1997 as a big country boy who loved to be fed in the post. But with the advanced numbers in NBA teams used to analyze players in today's game, it was already very apparent that he hurt the team more than he helped did on both ends of the court. 6-year seasons, Reeves played for Vancouver, but he never had a positive plus-minus rating on the defense, only had one on offense. So in the final years from 1997 to 2001, you had the 97-98 season, of course, Abdul-Rahim, Reeves, Thorpe, Daniels, Pillar, Blue Edwards, and Sam Mack. They hired head coach Brian Hill. It was a breakout year for Abdul-Rahim that year. He averaged 22.3 points, 7.1 rebounds, 2.6 assists. Daniels was a disappointment as a rookie, averaged 7.8 points, 4.5 assists. He finished with 1963. Had number 2 pick in the draft. They drafted Mike Bibby. So they cut bait with Daniels, traded him to San Antonio Spurs for Felipe Lopez and Carl Herrera. Bibby would end up having a very solid NBA career, mostly elsewhere, but in the same draft, Canada's other team in Toronto was able to draft Vince Carter, who would save the NBA in Canada and put Toronto on the map as a desirable, legitimate NBA city. Despite having Abdul-Rahim and Bibby having a solid rookie season, averaging 13.5 points, 6.5 assists, 1.6 steals, making an all-rookie team But 1998-99 NBA season was an awful team. Finished with the worst record in the NBA. Again, the lockout, 8-42. And then they drafted Steve Francis in 1999 NBA draft. He didn't want to play for Vancouver. He refused because of the location facility of the franchise and the fact that Grizzlies wanted him to play shooting guard alongside Bibby. They traded Francis what was the largest deal in NBA history at the time. The Grizzlies ended up with Michael Dickerson, a teammate in college with Bibby in Arizona, Antoine Walker, Antoine Carr, Othello Hamilton, Brent Price, first round pick. The Rockets, a second round pick from the Magic. So you have Abdul-Rahim, Bibby, Dickerson, Declining Reeves, Grant Long, and Dennis Scott. For 1999-2000 season, they went 22-60. It was a Sally the first time in their 5 seasons that they had won even 20 games in the NBA season. So, ended up moving obviously to Memphis in 2001. But before that, they selected Stromile Swift in the 2000 draft. He was struggling while he was a rookie. They went 23-59 finally in the final season in Vancouver. So they go to Memphis 2001. I'm gonna go over the details of how that happened. There were other locations other than Memphis that they considered. Memphis, Louisville, St. Louis, Las Vegas, Buffalo, New Orleans, San Diego, Anaheim. But the strongest bids were Memphis, Louisville, New Orleans, and Anaheim. So 2001 NBA draft was one of the most eventful in Grizzlies history. They drafted Duke forward Shane Battier. They traded Sharif Abdul-Rahim and Jamal Tinsley to the Hawks for Louisiana Wright, Brevin Knight, number 3 pick. That would be Paul Gasol. They also dealt former number 2 pick Mike Bibby to the Sacramento Kings for Jason Williams and Nick Anderson. Brian Country Reeves was dealing with chronic weight and back issues by this time and never played a regular season game for Memphis Grizzlies. Midway through the 2001-2002 NBA season, he retired. So you had Reeves, Abdul-Rahim, and Bibby gone. Michael Dixon only appeared in 4 games for the Grizzlies in their first season, which was due to injury. So only remnant left of the franchise tenure in Vancouver was the name. Meanwhile, Paul Gasol became franchise first star in Memphis, averaging 17.6 points, 8.9 rebounds, 2.7 assists, 2.1 blocks per game, won an NBA Rookie of the Year in 2001-2002. Shane Battier had a fantastic rookie season, all rookie at first team, averaging 14.4 points, 5.4 rebounds, 2.8 assists, 1.6 steals. Jason Williams led the team in assists with 8 assists, go with 14.8 points, 3 rebounds, 1.7 assists, so 1.7 rebounds, 1.7 steals per game. The Grizzlies finished 23-59 once again. They selected Drew Gooden in 2002 NBA draft out of Kansas. They passed on Merrick Steinmeier. They added Wesley Person and Gordon Garachek. Finished in 2002-2003 season at 28-54. They dealt Garachek and Gooden to the Magic for Mac Miller, Ryan Humphrey, and 2003 first round pick. 2003 first round pick. It was an interesting draft because they had, obviously Dwayne Wade, LeBron James, and Carmelo Anthony, Chris Bosh for this draft. The problem is with the trade that they made for Otis Thorpe. Never wanted to play in Vancouver, was subsequently traded a few months later. The Pistons owned the Grizzlies pick in the 2003 NBA draft. So they wasn't able to get that pick. So that was an unfortunate situation. Could have drafted LeBron James possibly. Whatever it is, it could have been at a high pick. They messed around with that Otis Thorpe trade. So to get to the playoffs though, signed James Posey in the free agency, Ball Outlaw, Jake Tassikilidis, and a trade with the Suns in September, and acquired Bonzi Wells for Wesley Person, and trade with the Blazers in December. So you got Gasol, Posey, Williams, Miller, Battier, Wright, Wells, Earl, Watson, Stromile, Swift. They were surprised to lead, so they ended up finishing 50 and 32 for the 2003-2004 NBA season. Number 6 seed in the Western Conference. They finished 7th in the NBA in offense, 11th in the NBA in defense. They had an 8-game win streak in January, winning 13 of their 15 games in March. They faced the defending NBA champion San Antonio Spurs in the first round of 2004, and they got swept. They played their final game in the Pyramid in Memphis before moving to the new arena for the 2004-2005 season. Same core plus Brian Cardinal and Hakeem Ward came back for the 2004-2005 season for an entirely new look for their brand new arena, ditching the Brickell black and red for a light blue, navy blue, yellow color scheme that was still used today. Gasol led the team in scoring 17.8 points per game, 7.3 rebounds. Mike Miller, Jason Williams, Bonzi Wells, Stromile Smith all the average in double-figure scoring for the Grizzlies team that won 45 games. Lost 37, finished 8th and final seed in the Western Conference. They had to play the 62-win Phoenix Suns. And they got swept by the Suns 4 games to none. So the Grizzlies mixed up their core before the 2005-2006 season, being involved in one of the biggest trades in NBA history, involving 13 players. Seeing the Grizzly trade Bonzi Wells, Jason Williams, James Posey, Greg Ostertag, ended up with Eddie Jones, Bobby Jackson, and Raul Lopez. They also signed Damon Stoudemire and Chucky Atkins in free agency. Gasol made his first NBA All-Star appearance in 2006, averaging 20.4 points, 8.9 rebounds, 4.6 assists, 1.9 blocks per game for the 2005-2006 season. So 7 players averaged double figures for the Grizzlies. Gasol, Miller, Jones, Stoudemire, Battier, Atkins, and Jackson finished the season with 49, 33, and number 5 seed in the Western Conference. So after facing Duck in the first round of 2004 and Nash in the first round of 2005, the Grizzlies now had the task of facing Dirk Nowitzki and the Dallas Mavericks, and they were swept for the third consecutive year in 2006 NBA playoffs. That's also set a new dubious honor for the most consecutive playoff losses in NBA history for a franchise before their first playoff victory, starting 0-12. While they had made the playoffs for the third straight season after missing them for the first 8 years of their existence, they still had 0 NBA playoff victories in their first 11 years. Grizzlies dealt with an aging roster, injuries in the 2006-2007 season, including Paul Gasol missed 23 games and found themselves in the basement record-wise with 22-60 records. So they traded Sam Battier to the Rockets for the Rockets draft pick Rudy Gay before the season. Then they drafted Mont Conley, the number 4 pick in 2007. They used their second pick in the first round of the 2004 NBA draft to select Villanova point guard Kyle Lowry, swapping Gasol, Burroughs, and Rudy Gay's breakout. During the summer of 2007, the Grizzlies signed Darko Milicic and ran with the core of Gasol, Gay, Miller, Conley, Juan, Carlos Navarro, Lowry, Warwick, and Stoudemire. They struggled mildly once again when they decided to trade Paul Gasol to the Lakers for Kwame Brown, Javaris Crittenton, Aaron McKee, 2008 first-round draft pick, 2010 first-round draft pick, Paul's brother, relatively unknown Spanish center Marc Gasol. The trade was viewed as one of the most lopsided in NBA history at the time, especially fishy considering it was Jerry West, trading the Lakers their next great big man for seemingly nothing of a value at the time. Rudy Gay was able to emerge in the second NBA season at the age of 21, led the team in scoring with 20.1 points a game, to go with 6.2 rebounds and 1.4 steals. They still finished 22-60 though, and got the number 5 pick in the 2008 NBA draft and used to select Kevin Love, UCLA. They decided later that night after the draft had ended, to trade the rights to Love, Mike Miller, and Brian Cardinal to the Timberwolves for the draft rights to number 3 pick O.J. Mayo, Marco George, Antoine Walker, and Greg Buckner. Used the additional first-round draft pick from the Lakers to draft Dante Green and trade him in a deal that landed them Darryl Arthur. So now you had in the 2008-2009 NBA season a core of Gay, Mayo, Marc Gasol, Conley, Warwick, Lowry, and Arthur. And signed the first Iranian NBA player, 7'2" center Hamed Haddadi. Lowry got traded in the 2009 NBA trade deadline They ended up throwing a foil, Mike Wilkes, first round draft pick. They were 24 and 58. Gay played well once again. OJ Mel had a very productive rookie season. 18.5 points a game, 3.8 rebounds, 3.2 assists per game. So 2009 NBA draft, man, you had Seen to beat 7 3 shot blocking machine out of UConn. He struggled mildly. He become one of the biggest busts in NBA history. It was the biggest NBA draft bust of all time. To beat, gotta be up there, obviously. Then got Zach Randolph. He came to Memphis 2009, 2010. Led the team in scoring, rebound, 20.8 points, 11.7 rebounds. Had a 14 game improvement, 40 and 42. Then pulled for all time upset in 2011. This is when they beat the Spurs. They beat number 1 seed Spurs. Game 6, Randolph had 31 points, 11 rebounds. In Game 6, they became just the fourth number 1 eighth seed to be the number 1 seed. Or win the playoffs, excuse me. Number 8 seed, number 8 seed at the time to win the playoff series. Joined the 1994 Nuggets. Went to 99 Knicks, 2007 Warriors. They played Oklahoma City. They're losing to them. Lost in Game 7, 105 to 90. They played the Clippers in 2012. Lost the Clippers in Game 7, 82-72. Then made to the conference finals 2013. Swept the Grizzlies. The Grizzlies got swept. They had another clutch series with the Thunder in 2014. They went 50 and 32 during that season. They lost in 6 games. They played the Golden State Warriors. The playoffs for the next season, 2015. Playoffs, lost that one, 6 games. It was the best of times. They had to rebuild. Getting Jaren Jackson Jr., guys like that, John Morant. He had his success, John Morant. Stuff like that. Right. Let's get into what if the Grizzlies were allowed to land the number 1 pick in the next 97 NBA draft. The Grizzlies finished with the NBA's worst record in 3 of their first 4 seasons in 1996, 97, 1999. The 1997 NBA draft, that's what it's all about. What if? He was better and more transformative in any NBA situation than Allen Iverson was. Second, Tim Duncan is the most unselfish superstar in the history of the NBA. Would have been absolutely fine and probably even happy to play in Vancouver. Tim Duncan was a quiet, keep to himself kind of guy that grew up in the U.S. Virgin Islands. Seems like the type that would have loved the isolation and lack of media attention in Vancouver, like would have loved its status as a world-class city with great cuisine. He seems more cultured than many NBA players of the era. If the Grizzlies got their big man of the future in Tim Duncan in the 1997 NBA draft, uh, this prevents them from making possibly the two worst decisions the team has ever made in the summer of 1997. Signing big country Brian Reeves to a massive 6 year, $65 million extension, and trading their first round pick in 2003 for Otis Thorpe. Also, probably refrained from waiving Greg Anthony before the 1997-98 season. Duncan was an all NBA first team player his rookie season in real life. So I'll recall Duncan, Abdul Rahim, Reeves, Anthony Pillard, Sam Mack, who Edwards might even make the playoffs in 1998. They probably would have had a number 8 seed before losing to Jazz in 4 games. They might like use their first round pick to draft Tyronn Lue. Hicks' Greg Anthony, and they signed Buddy Divac to be their center. Then the 1998-99 Grizzlies will look like this, with Tyronn Lue, Mack, Abdul Rahim, Duncan, Divac, Reeves come off the bench, Lopez, and Massenberg, and Parks come off the bench. Duncan is an NBA all NBA performer once again, so should be Abdul Rahim is an all-star as the Grizzlies go 32-18. They become the number 3 seed in the West. They beat the Kings in 3 games to 1 in the franchise first playoff series. They beat the Blazers 7 games in round 2 before losing to the Jazz in 1999. West Conference Finals 6 games. The offseason would have been a big one for the Grizzlies, as they know they need to make a few moves in order to improve and keep Tim Duncan happy. So they traded first round pick 2001-2003 Lue and Mack to the Orlando Magic for Penny Hardaway. They signed Del Curry and Chucky Atkins. They don't resign Brian Reeves and bring in Mark Bryant as a backup big man. So 2099-2000 season has Hardaway, Penny Hardaway, Del Curry, Abdul Rahim, Tim Duncan, and Buddy Divac with Atkins and Bryant and Long. And then Scott come off the bench. They finished 60-22, second in Western Conference behind the Lakers. They beat the Timberwolves in 3 games, beat the Jazz in 5 games before facing off the Lakers in the 2000 Western Conference Finals. Jack does repeat the season. Lakers escaping the 7-game series to go on and win the championship in 2000. Rashad Tucker, a huge extension. Abdul Rahim an extension the year before. Penny wins his all but 4 games in 2000-2001 season due to injuries in his knee. Chucky Atkins picked up some slack. Duncan has a huge season, averaging 26 points, 13 rebounds, 5 assists, 3 blocks. He just finished 56-26, second in the Western Conference. The Lakers beat them in 6 games in the 2001 Western Conference Finals. Now, draft night in 2001, the Grizzlies made a move to infuse a little youth, depth, and shooting, and trade Abdul Rahim the rights to Jamal Tesley and Curry to the Hawks for James and Terry, the Vincent Wright, number 3 pick of the 2001 draft, and selected Shane Battier. They take Shane Battier at number 6 and realize it likely fit with him more than they saw in this alternate universe. They signed Jim Jackson to be their starting shooting guard, and Patrick Ewing signs to be the backup center for one last chance at an NBA ring. The team also doesn't move to Memphis as it is flourishing in Vancouver. So you have in 2001-2002, Penny, Jackson, Battier, Duncan, Divac, Terry, Wright, Ewing, and Atkins off the bench. Penny rebounds to have a healthy season. Terry begins his journey as a great 6-man in NBA history, potentially. And Battier is a perfect fit for a very high IQ team. Had the league's best record at 62-20. They sweep the Jazz in round 1. 2002 NBA draft. They beat Dirk Nowitzki and the Mavericks in 5 games in round 2. Then in the finals, they finally overcome Shaq, Kobe, and the Lakers and beat them 4 games to 2. Make the 2002 NBA Finals against the Nets. They sweep the Nets en route to win the first NBA title and the first for a non-American franchise in NBA history. So in 17 years before the Raptors did it, in reality, Duncan wins NBA Finals MVP, and Patrick Ewing retires as an NBA champion. The same crew comes back, wins the NBA title in 2003 again. Tim Duncan wins his second MVP in the league, NBA Finals MVP. Grizzlies go way over the cap to give Terry a big extension in 2004 NBA season, off season. Agent Bosby decides Duncan, Terry, and Batty is unable to get past the Lakers with Shaq, Kobe, Karl Malone, and Gary Payton in the 2004 Western Conference Finals. Then Grizzlies roster and overwork Duncan results in a 52-win Grizzlies team in 2004-2005. They lose to the Mavericks in the Western Conference semifinals. The Spurs finally able to dump salary the final year. They tell him to pick up Batty's option on to have max level cap space for the summer of 2005. The Grizzlies agreed to sign and trade for a future first round pick for a 24-year-old by the starting shooting guard Joe Johnson. Signed Antoine Walker, David Stoudemire, and Samuel Dellenberg. 2005-2006 NBA season. Stoudemire, Johnson, Walker, Duncan, Dellenberg, Terry, Atkins, Derek Lee all come off the bench. Duncan is all NBA once again. Johnson's a first-time NBA All-Star. The Grizzlies bounced back to win 58 games in the number 2 seed in the West Conference behind the Dallas Mavericks. The Mavericks beat the Grizzlies in 7 games in the West Conference Finals as Dirk gets the best of Duncan in Game 7. In the 2006-2007 NBA season, the Grizzlies altered the rotation slightly, signed Grant Hill to replace Walker as a small forward, starting forward, a small forward, and signed Steve Blake to be their starting shooting guard. So you got Joe Johnson, who breaks out as the team's leading scorer, makes his first All-NBA appearance, swapping Stoudemire, Walker for Blake. Hill makes all the difference as the Grizzlies go 64-18 and beat the Suns in 7 games in the 2007 Western Conference Finals before beating a 22-year-old LeBron James in 4 games to win it in 2007 NBA title. The same crew returns the next season, beats Kobe and Al Gasol, make the NBA Finals 2008, where they played the Big Three Celtics with Kevin Garnett, Paul Pierce, and Ray Allen. Celtics win one of the better NBA Finals in league history, winning Game 7 at home in overtime while behind a hot shooting performance by Ray Allen. They come back and win 60-plus games again in 2008-2009 NBA seasons. As David Lee emerges, Johnson and Duncan are all NBA once again. Grant Hill makes an all-defensive appearance. Jason Terry wins the 6th man of the year. And the Grizzlies overcame Kobe and Paul once again in the conference finals in 6 games and beat Dwight Howard in the Magic in 6 games in 2009 NBA draft. So finally succumbed to Kobe and Paul Gasol in the 2010 Western Conference Finals in 7 games. Kobe takes over Game 7 in Los Angeles. The Lakers win 2010 NBA title. So 2010 is the ultimate reality for the Grizzlies, as they would likely have been in the midst of yet another roster transition around Duncan at that time. So here are the Grizzlies' alternate universe outcomes and possibilities. Number 1, the team is allowed to be a part of the lottery in 1997, with the highest odds lands the number 1 pick in the right to draft Tim Duncan. Number 2, the Spurs dynasty as we know it never comes to fruition. Number 3, they never signed Brian Reeves to a big extension in the summer of 1997. 4, they never trade their 2003 first-round pick for Otis Thorpe in 1997. Number 5, they make their first NBA playoff appearance in 1998 instead of 2004. Number 6, the Jazz make the 1999 NBA Finals and beat the Knicks to win an NBA title. Karl Malone and John Stockton win the NBA title. Number 7, David Robinson never wins an NBA title in 1999, 2003, hurting his legacy as the Spurs end up with Keith Van Horn instead of Tim Duncan. Number 8, the Grizzlies trade for Penny Hardaway in 1999 instead of the Suns. Number 9, the early 2000s. The Kings are a little different. That's why D-Bot signed with the Grizzlies in 1999, not the Kings. Number 10, the Grizzlies never moved to Memphis in 2001. They are one of the premier franchises in the NBA today with 4 NBA titles at least in Vancouver. They are a Kansas team. Number 11, Jason Terry and Shane Battier win multiple NBA titles as a member of the Grizzlies and not as a member of the Mavericks, just one a Heat potentially. 12, Patrick Ewing's legacy is enhanced, just like as he wins an NBA title in Vancouver in 2002. The Lakers, number 13, never repeat in 2002. Number 14, Allen Iverson never wins an NBA MVP in 2001 as Duncan wins his first instead. Number 15, the Pistons are Suns to win the NBA title in 2005. 16, Kobe Bryant has 4 NBA titles instead of 5 as the Grizzlies win the NBA championship in 2009. Number 17, Grant Hill wins multiple NBA titles as does Joe Johnson and Vlade Divac. And finally, number 18, Uncle Saul, like he never plays for the Grizzlies, and the grit and grind Grizzlies never exist. All right, that's it. Look at the Memphis Grizzlies. Next tomorrow I'll be talking about the Miami Heat. So thanks for tuning in. Be back tomorrow. I'll be in chapter 25. Talk about sexual purity, read from Matthew chapter 5, verse 27 to 30, the Sermon on the Mount book. And then I'll be in the Ultimate NBA History and What If book, volume 2, talking about the Miami Heat. So then, talk to you tomorrow.